When I was in year nine, I was in an RE lesson that was, as usual, incredibly boring, and I was browsing the textbook and I found a page where there was a little story in the sidebar, and the title of the story was The Lost Horse. And the story went something like this. So there was a man who was very poor and had nothing of value in life except this white stallion. The white stallion was very expensive, and I think it was a present from his dead wife, and the only thing that reminded him of her, so he would never part with it. It was very precious to him. One day, the white stallion disappeared, it vanished, and everybody in the village, all the man's friends said, "Oh no, that's such a terrible thing that's happened." The man shrugged his shoulders and said, "Maybe, maybe not." And then a few days later, the stallion returned with four female horses of exactly the same quality. All of a sudden, the man was 5 times richer than he was before. Now he's got 5 horses, and everybody says, "You can breed these horses now, and then you can be rich. Isn't that wonderful?" And then the man just shrugged his shoulders again, stoically, and he just said, "Yeah, maybe, maybe not." And then one day, the man's only son was trying to tame one of these new horses, and he fell off, broke his back, and then he was crippled and he would never walk again. Everybody said, "Isn't that a terrible thing? Commiserations to you and your son." The man shrugged his shoulders and said, "Maybe, maybe not." And then a few weeks later, war broke out in the land, and all of the young men were conscripted, and they went off and died because their side lost the war. The only young man in the village who survived was this man's son, and he only survived because he was a cripple. So the moral of the story, by the way, I strongly suspect this story is based on something in the Quran where Moses learns some very similar lessons. So the moral of the story is that we, from our very limited worm's eye view, are not able to tell what is good or bad in an absolute sense. And to give you another more everyday example, so I teach maths as a private tutor, and I've been doing this for many years. When you watch a student who's struggling with a problem, you realize they are in no way, shape, or form in a position to know what is good or bad for them. So sometimes they'll be struggling, but you, as the teacher, know that they're actually struggling in the right way. So this struggling is actually going to be good for them. Or, for example, if you go to the gym and your personal trainer is just kind of beating you into the ground, making you push yourself really hard. Now, in the moment, that seems like your personal trainer hates you. But of course, from a bigger perspective, a wider perspective, they are doing what's right for you. So all of this is really teaching us to trust God in every situation. And when I learnt about this, the word for this is equanimity, when you just trust God for whatever situation you're in. A good rule of thumb that I go by is, if it's happening, it's good. If it's happening, it's good. So when my students, they trust me, so no matter what I put them through, they trust me. So they take this mindset of, if it's happening, it's good. And the ones that really do trust me, they always come out really well and successful in the end. They pass with flying colors, with minimum effort. So in a wider sense, God is our educator, God is our teacher. So if he's putting you through something, it is by definition good. It might not seem good in the moment. In the moment, it might seem terrible. It might seem your whole life is crashing down on you. But in the wider sense, it's always good. And don't we do that? Don't we always look back on the challenges we went through and we say, well, they brought me to where I am now, so I don't regret it. Don't we do that? So trusting God is what it's all about. And all of the new age people who are really, getting into the trend of manifesting now, I by and large support that, because it does put you in the mindset of trusting God, and trusting God is inevitable. It's just imperative for success. You will not be successful if you don't trust God. Look at the people who don't trust God and who think that the whole world is this kind of inert set of Lego bricks that will not move around unless I force them. These people drive themselves into the ground. They work hard, but they work hard like a car that's trapped in first gear. It's just rev, rev, rev. And they don't ever learn to glide like an eagle, or kind of skate on an ice rink where you move very, very fast with minimum effort. And in order to do that, you really need to learn to trust God. And this is where I think the Eastern tradition of Taoism So if you look up Alan Watts, he talks about Taoism a lot, and there's lots of really nice books on Taoism. So Taoism, they believe in this concept of the Tao, right? D-A-O or T-A-O. Sometimes it's spelt one way, sometimes it's spelt the other. But that refers to this, it's hard to put into words, because they even say if you can put it into words, then you're not referring to the Tao really. But it's this idea of working with the flow of nature and not working against it, and not thinking nature is this dead thing that doesn't move. Nature is very much alive. Nature has its own natural forces. Even in a big city, there's natural forces. There's the wind, there's the sunshine, there's the traffic even, right? All of these forces exist. Inside you, there's forces. There's a force inside me that constantly tells me to relax and be lazy. There's another impulse in me that tells me to make a YouTube video because it will really help people today, right? And you kind of have to navigate these forces intelligently. You could be a tyrant over yourself and just say, oh, I'm just gonna force myself to work today. I don't care how bad I feel, I'm gonna force myself to work today. Well, sometimes there's moments where your body says, I need a rest, and you should be listening to it. And if you still force yourself to work, then you're just going to make yourself ill. Other times your body is just behaving like a spoilt brat, and it says it needs rest when really it just wants to be lazy. And then those are the times where you nudge it in the right direction. So all of these things fall under the banner of trusting God, because your body is receiving intuition from its own instincts that God placed within your body. So God placed an incredible amount of wisdom and intelligence in your own body. So you will know what is right for you to eat at any particular time. Sometimes people blame their body for things like overeating. They'll say, oh, my body told me to eat. No, your body did not tell you to eat. It was your ego, it was your greed, it was all of these nasty impulses within you telling you to overeat, whispering in your ear saying it's fine, you know, you can spend the next 6 hours lazing around doing nothing as a result of overeating, it'll be fine. It's not your body, right? If you've ever heard about foie gras, which is they make that by shoving metal pipes down, is it geese? Like down their throats and force feeding them like this artificial cornmeal. And the reason they have to force feed them is because they would never eat or overeat naturally. Animals don't overeat naturally. Animals eat exactly what they need and then they move on. It's only human beings who, especially if you come from a poor background, you've got this scarcity mindset where, let's say you were a child and you've eaten exactly as much as your body wants and your body does not need any more to be healthy. But there happens to be more on your plate, and your mum, bless her, with the best of intentions said, there's starving kids in Africa who don't have any food, so you better eat what's on your plate. Next thing you know, you've eaten more than your body wanted you to eat. You've eaten more than you should have. I don't think the obesity crisis and the scarcity mindset are not linked. I think they are very much linked. And it's always poor families who tend to become obese. It's because they have the scarcity mindset. And again, they don't trust God. They don't trust God. They don't listen to their own instincts. They don't listen to the impulses and the wisdom of the body. The wisdom of the body is the name of a chapter in one of Alan Watts's books, I think. I think it was in The Wisdom of Insecurity. I think the whole tradition of Taoism is very good at this idea of trusting God. And it's pivotal in all the monotheistic religions as well, but we've been abandoning it. Muslims in particular have been abandoning this concept of tawakkul, reliance upon God. Instead, people have become very similar to atheists. They've started to adopt this hustle culture of push. Nothing will get done unless I make it happen. Like, what? Who are you? Like, are you God? God is making things happen, not you. We're just along for the ride, okay? So God decided in advance everything that will happen. So what part do we play? Well, the part we play is, are we going to cooperate or not? Are you going to cooperate and go with the grain of everything that God has decreed? Or are you going to try and fight against what God has decreed, right? Trying to fight against what God has decreed is a bit like being King Canute and trying to hold back the ocean with your hands. It's not going to happen. So you might as well cooperate with what God has decreed. And whatever situation you find yourself in, just trust, the way my students trust me as a teacher, just trust God as your Lord and educator, that if it's happening, it's good.